Monday, October 16th, we're picking a trip winner. You can win from anywhere in the world. All you have to do is be a member of the Moto Academy app. Go to club.themotoacademy.com before October 16th. That's this coming Monday. Subscribe, and we're going to pick a winner, fly you in to experience an epic ride day, the first ever Moto Academy ride day at Tomahawk. This is where everything started. This is where my YouTube channel started, was Tomahawk MX. Can't wait to have our first ride day there, and we want one of you guys to join us. club.themotoacademy.com for your chance to win.
How much time do we have? Do we have time for one more? Let's do one more. Cam, AJ, driver Jamie, anyone else who's there today? My question is about technique. Lately, I've heard a lot of experts saying that the fundamentals in motocross are different from off-road riding, and I'm pretty skeptical of that. I come from a background of downhill skiing, and in skiing they're exactly the same. Whether you're Bodie Miller or your first day on skis, there's 4 fundamental movements and they're always the same. I suspect it's the same in motocross or dirt bike riding, but I just thought I'd ask your opinion on it. The 2 that come to mind are off-road coaches saying don't squeeze the bike and ride on your arches, which I find crazy, but I wondered what your opinions were. Thank you. Great question, King Friday.
King Friday, shout out King Friday. Great question. Good video. I am timid in answering this question because I'm sure there's exceptions to this rule and I just don't know them yet. I'm starting to dive a little bit more into the off-road community now, really. Driver Jamie's building up a KDX for me. I think I mentioned that in the podcast. I just moved next to the state forest where there's a lot of awesome trails. I've explored them a little bit already. And I'm going to start riding in there 3, 4, 5 times a week, just because it's so easily accessible for me to just take that KDX out from the garage, just right from my driveway, go ride the trails a little bit. From my experience so far, technique is exactly the same. I haven't done anything different and it's working really quite well. Now, I'm sure that there are specific things. You see Graham Jarvis teaching certain like hard enduro type obstacles that his knees will break loose from the bike and he'll let the bike work underneath him a little bit. I wonder, I'm going to have to watch and learn a little bit more from these guys and see when they say that that is most applicable. I'm sure people are going to comment below and give a bunch of their opinions or knowledge that they have. I'll read all of that as well. I'm curious because I feel like you could do all of that with your hips in the right spot and your knees tight without having to break your knees loose. But I'll be interested to hear when the knees breaking loose would be applicable, kind of more maybe in hard enduro type obstacles. We're doing a class with Spencer Wilton, who is an enduro cross rider, October 25th at Dutchman MX, which I think is in Pennsylvania. So that will be really cool. I'm gonna pick his brain like crazy. We're gonna film a bunch of content with him. So that'd be good learning experience for me to be able to see like, okay, what is different? What would I need to change? But I think what's really quite nice is it is all extremely applicable, and there's a huge market in the off-road community that I want to make sure that I'm affecting and making sure they're doing it the right way. I just got up in the attack position and just stood with my heels dropped, knees tight, and just rode for an hour and a half when I went out in the trails. And I was riding with fast guys that are, close to the pro level in the woods. And it was really one of my first goes at it, and it worked well. As far as riding on your arches, my guess is that the theory there would be you can get to the controls quicker, to the shifter quicker, and to the brake quicker. I would say it's even more important in the woods to stay in the balls of your feet with your toes tight. When you're on your arches, it leaves your toes hanging off, whether it's hanging off upwards straight on top of the controls, still susceptible to get snagged at that point, or rotated out so that you're away from the controls. That's even worse. It is so easy when you're trying to lean the bike and kind of go through rocks and logs and tight areas for something to grab your ankle, to grab your toe and rip your feet off. That was one thing I was really particular with, is I would slide my feet back, wedge them tight. Like I was making sure the whole time that there wasn't space in between the toe box of my boot and the frame of the bike, because I was so afraid of, and I I would feel it. I'd feel the rocks and the logs scraping up against the outside of my boot. I'm like, man, if my toe was out just a little bit, if I was slid forward onto my arches and that toe was hanging out a little bit, it would rip your leg right off the bike. That's how you break an ankle. That's how you tear an ACL. And I'm not trying to do that. I'd like to hear where they say that that could be applicable. If they think that getting to the controls is that important. I didn't find myself shifting a ton. That could change based on the bike. I was on a 450. I just left it in first gear almost the whole time. And I never touched the rear brake the entire time. I experimented with it once or twice and I was like, I don't like what it does to the bike. I'm just going to stay off the rear brake, try to get as much traction in this rear tire as I can. Every time I'd hit the rear brake, it would just unsettle the bike and really just it didn't feel right. I just stayed off of it. So yeah, that's where my head is at so far. I'm very curious and I'm always open-minded to just hear opinions, and not opinions, I guess just knowledge that other people have created in off-road specific. I'm going to start learning more and more, and who knows, maybe there will be things that I have a different viewpoint on and can bring a different viewpoint into the off-road community, or maybe there's things that I can learn and apply to the off-road stuff to make me better. Who knows? Good question. Great question. I know King Friday's got a KDX as well. Shout out. And he does a lot of off-road riding. If you guys enjoyed this podcast clip and you want to listen to full episodes, go download them. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I think that's it. Go download them there. Give them a listen. If you want to watch full episodes, which I tell you what, it's even better to do that, go to club.themotoacademy.com, because Moto Academy subscribers inside of the app have exclusive access to watch the entire episodes. And not only that, the subscribers actually can send in their questions to be answered on the podcast as well. Club.themotoacademy.com. Go subscribe.